What's up, everyone? How are you guys doing? Hope everything is fine wherever you are. This is again Spanish Grandmaster Pepe Cuenca, and I welcome you to this lecture, Games of the Week. As you guys know, not so many tournaments are taking place right now because of the pandemic, because of this bad situation. But Norway Chess actually happened in Norway, in Stavanger, extremely beautiful place. I don't know if you guys been there, but it's definitely a place to visit. And also very, very, very expensive, right? Norway. Remember, I was there for a weekend when I finished my studies, the university, 2010, and I went there to celebrate. And then, I spent like all my money in one weekend there. I took a taxi. I had the nice idea to take a taxi like 2 kilometers, and it cost me like $100. So, all right. So Magnus Carlsen. Before this tournament, he has a fantastic. Before actually this game, he had managed to achieve a fantastic unbeaten streak of 125 games without losing a single game. So pretty amazing. And this streak ended up here, and it was ended by Duda. Super Grandmaster from Poland, very young player, and is top 20, 25 in the world, and for sure we'll hear about him a lot in the following years. So just hello to everybody out there in the chat. So I hope you guys interact with me in this lesson. It will be fantastic because it will be more fun. I'll be asking you some questions, and please don't hesitate to ask yourself some questions. If you have any doubts about any position or any line, I'm here for you guys. Okay, what's up, Piyush? Everything fine? So let's start with the game. Duda played e4 and Magnus Carlsen replies with c6. It's very interesting because in this Norway Chess we have seen like the Caro-Kann being played in several games. For example, Alireza Firuza, the young star from Iran, he actually employed it as a main line in the whole tournament. And Magnus Carlsen has been, deciding between Sicilian, also Caro-Kann, and of course e5, the most solid approach for black against e4. But in this case, he went for the Caro-Kann. Streak was unbelievable. Yes, I mean there have been other players. For example, Dingliren. He managed to get 100 games without being beaten. And also Sergei Tibyakov. But of course, this was in open tournaments. I mean, of course, it's a great success, but it's not the same, I would say, because Magnus Carlsen or Dingliren, they've been facing like 2,700 players during all these games. So, pretty amazing thing. All right, so c6 here. This is the Caro-Kann defense, EJ, sorry. So here, different ways to play. For example, c4, aiming to go for the Panov variation. d4 is the main line. This is what Duda played. But also you can try knight c3 after d5, knight f3. I actually like this idea, this variation. I actually employed it against Stefanova, ex-world champion, just 2-3 weeks ago in the Spanish National Championship in teens. Actually, we made a draw at the end, but I was putting pressure. This is another idea, and you can also try to go for the trip. If you are playing bullet in Lichess, Chess24 or Chess.com, you can try this line, knight d7, queen e2, and then you hope for knight f6, and then you checkmate him. Not gonna happen very often, but you can try. So c6, d4, d5, and now players play Caro to get unbalanced sharp positions, right? No more solid boarding. That's right. You get a lot of unbalanced positions when playing the Caro-Kann. Knight c3. Here again, many players employ the advanced variation with e5. After that, black can reply with bishop f5 or c5. Some people say the Caro-Kann is a better version of the French. Why? Because you put the bishop out of the pawn chain with e6, right? So the French is basically the same kind of structures, but with the bishop on c8, which is a bad bishop. That's why in many cases in the French, black tries to exchange this bad bishop for the good bishop on f1. I would say both openings are extremely interesting to play. Yeah, I've been playing myself the French for many years. Okay, so e5, that's the advanced variation. For those people who like adventures, We just had a class about Mikhail Tal. You can try this variation with f3. It's much more aggressive. You want to continue with knight c3, bishop e3, queen d2, and long castle. But okay, knight c3, main line. D takes e4, knight takes e4, and here the main line goes after bishop f5. In this moment, Magnus Carlsen decided to go for knight f6. After bishop f5, you can try different options here. For example, knight g3 is the main line. After bishop g6, you guys know what's the main idea in this position for white? How to play here with the white pieces? This bishop is actually very strong. So that's why in many cases you want to trade that bishop. Many people try here the move h4, h5, h6, h5. Just fix the structure over there. That's right, Anish. And Mani, that's right. And now you trade the bishop with bishop d3. You know, this pawn on h5 is doing a great job because it's fixing the structure, and then in some positions you want to go with knight f3, bishop d2, long castle, and then remove this knight from g3 and then start an attack on the king side because you got a breaking point here on g5 where you can try to create some troubles. But at the same time, this pawn on h5 could be a weakness actually in some potential endgame. Okay, there are also different ways to play here. For example, knight a3 followed by knight a4 is actually very interesting. And even here, this move, knight c5, has been tried as well for some players. Okay, so knight f6 from Magnus Carlsen, knight takes f6, and e takes f6. G takes f6 also possibility here, even more double-edged than e takes f6 because now black actually more or less lost the right to castle because now castling on the king side is gonna be very risky in many cases, right? But in return, black has this open file to put pressure with the rook. Okay, so e takes f6, and then we have to talk about this position a little bit because if we talk about structure, white has the better structure, right? Because black has double pawns. And in some potential endgames, again, white would be able to create a pass pawn very easily on the d file. But in the same time, what's in favor for black after this line? Well, now black just develops this bishop just in one tempo. In the normal Caro-Kann, you have two ways like two tempi with e6 and then bishop d6. And okay, c3 for Duda, because he wants to develop this bishop to d3. This way you reinforce the pawn on d4. And now black plays bishop d6 in this position. Bishop d3, short castle, and then how do you want to continue with the white pieces in this position? You want to play knight f3, you want to play queen e2, you want to play queen c2, h4, h3, bishop e3, a4. How do you want to continue? Knight f3, that's very reasonable. Piyush, knight e2. I think all of them are perfectly playable, yeah? In the game, Duda went for queen c2, which is a natural move. He puts pressure on h7. And here, you would be surprised. The main move is actually h5 in this position. Sorry, rook e8 first, rook e8, knight e2, and now h5. We could think that h6 is maybe more natural, right? Or even g6. But the point with g6 is now you can try to play on the king side with moves like h4, h5. Actually, this position is quite flexible in the sense that now white is able to go for long castle, then start an attack on the king side. So that's why g6 looks dubious to me, you know. After h4, h5, then some sacrifices arise on g6, right? So it's actually quite dangerous for black. So that's why you don't want to create this h5 break for white. So that's why you gotta protect this pawn on h7. f5 still not possible because of bishop takes f5. So that's why h6 or h5. I think both of them are playable, but actually with this pawn on h6, there could be some sacrifices as well from this bishop on c1, right? So that's why people normally play h5. And then in some lines, if white wants to go for short castle, then black could try to attack with some h4 and h3 ideas. So that's why h5 is normally played nowadays. So bishop e3, knight d7, and short castle. So now Magnus deviated from the main line. What do you play here with the black pieces? Just give me a way to develop your pieces, for example. It looks like white has a perfect setup, right? So white is bringing his king to b1. Then white may think about putting pressure on the king side with moves like h3, g4, even knight g3, intend to jump to f5, right? All these ideas are very, very reasonable in this position. So, yeah, b5, this is a move, actually. It's not the main move. There was only one game before this game where black tried this line. It was actually a game between Azarov and Robin van Kampen. Robin van Kampen, very nice guy. I shared him with him in the Bundesliga like for 2-3 years. And he's a very strong player. Actually, he plays the King's Indian. And I was checking his repertoire, and he helped me a lot actually with this King's Indian repertoire. c5. Well, c5, you have to be extremely cautious with these moves, you know, because whenever there is a rook like in front of your queen, don't try to open that line, because something bad could actually happen to you. So here, let's just open the file. Knight takes e5, for example. Bishop takes e5. Bishop takes e5. And now, what's the baboom here in this position? Wow. What's the baboom? How do we finish? Yeah, bishop h7. This is pretty easy, right? Bishop h7. So that's why be careful with opening lines where there's a rook in front of your queen. Just take that in mind. So, yeah. So, normally black plays in this position knight f8. Black's idea is just to develop bishop. With bishop e6, then this knight is controlling this focal point, h7, right? And yeah, this is perfectly playable, and this is healthy for black too. But Magnus, he wanted to have a pretty complicated game, so that's why he plays b5. And now black has an idea behind this move. What do you think is black's idea? For example, if I just play king b1 in this position, what do you think Magnus wanted to do in this position? With this move, you are not only starting a pawn march on the queen side, but also you are gaining full control on the light squares. So it's black's turn. What do you play here? b4. Well, b4, I'm not so sure about this move, because I can play c4, and now you're never gonna attack my king, sorry, because these files are closed, and then I have even more control in the center. So I don't like b4 actually. But nice suggestion, Piyush. Am I pronouncing correctly your name, Piyush? Knight b6, that's right, Mihalis. Yeah, knight b6 is very strong. Now you see there is full control on the light squares. For example, this knight can jump to d5, and then this bishop can come to e6, and white actually can't use his majority on the king side or the center, right? Because these pawns control very nicely the light squares. So that's why Duda plays very dynamically, fighting against this plan. So why to play in this position? There is only one good move actually in this position who guarantee white a nice advantage, I would say. Of course, the position is extremely messy, as you guys are gonna see. So rook b8. Well, it's white's turn right now, right? So how do we play in this position? Piyush, what should we play here with the white pieces? Well, black wants to go knight b6 and knight d5. So we have to react quickly in this position. a4. Well, a4, you know, a4 looks very, very, you know, risky. Like normally you don't want to open the a file in this kind of positions, right? So I don't like a4 at all. d5, Abraham, that's right, d5, and basically this is almost winning a pawn, because now if black tries to play c takes d5, then we just capture this pawn on b5, And, well, we can also play something like, yeah, bishop b5, or even bishop h7, followed by rook d5, attacking this bishop, aiming to go rook h5. So that's why black can take on d5. And if black goes for bishop c6, then we just win a piece in this position. Forcing moves again. Bishop h7, king h8, and d takes c6, forcing moves. Checks and captures. Why not g4? g4, wow. Very aggressive move. g4 actually is very interesting. I guess black should actually close the position with h4. Because if you take on g4, I like your idea. Maybe you want to continue with h3. Very interesting suggestion. I think black can still close the position, but very, very interesting. Sarang. So, in this moment, as I told you, Duda plays d5, and Magnus, I think he still, I mean, he was in his book still, right? This was all preparation, because now he sacrifices the pawn with c5, bishop takes b5, and rook b8. Position is very, very complicated because now black has sacrificed a pawn, but in return, it's got the b file open to attack this king. So now, how should we proceed? You want to play c4, you want to play bishop takes d7, you want to retreat the bishop to c4. You got to choose between these 3-4 options, also bishop d3. Now, give me the best move for white. There's only one good move here in this position for white. g4 was Kramik's suggestion. Actually, I didn't know. There was a fantastic commentary on Norway Chess. Vladimir Kramik and Judith Polgar. They were doing commentary together, and yeah, I also managed to saw some clips, and it was just fantastic, right? g4, wow. And just liked it when you just suggested in the chat. Yeah, g4, very, very interesting actually. Bishop a4, queen d3. Queen d3, I mean, this smells bad, right? Queen d3 smells bad because of knight e5. And then you gotta retreat your queen, and then this actually falls. This bishop on b5 is just falling, so you cannot go queen d3 in this position. Bishop c4, I don't like it either because of knight e5 again, and then you have to lose another tempo by moving this bishop. Actually, after bishop b3, c4, and then you just gave black so many tempi in this position, so there's no need for bishop c4. That's right. So yeah, bishop d7, I don't like it, you know. I always tell you that the bishop pair is extremely important, and in this position, I mean, black has so many attacking ideas. Let's say queen a5 followed by bishop a4, forcing b3, and then c4, and something bad's gonna happen in this position. So that's why the best move is c4. That's right. Reinforcing the center, protecting the bishop. And after this move, Magnus Carlsen went for a6. And now, again, where should we go? a4 or c6? c6 or a4? Well, I think both of them are playable. But I guess bishop a4 is a little bit better. Why? Because normally this knight would love to go to e5 at some point. So basically, as you're gonna see, Magnus Carlsen's plan is to play rook e7, so this way he frees this knight, and then this knight is aiming to go to e5. So if the bishop is on a4, you're actually not attacking the bishop. If the bishop is on c6, the knight on e5 is actually attacking the bishop. So I think bishop a4 kind of wins the tempo. But of course, these are small subtleties, and maybe they are extremely important. But these guys, they are able to see all of them, you know. They're super players, of course. So, Duda plays bishop a4 in this position. And now, yeah, as I told you, Magnus goes for rook e7. So now it's our turn with the white pieces. How should we proceed? Like, I mean, you want to create an attack on the king side. You want to bring the rook to the center. You want to improve the e2 knight. Yeah, that's right, Matan. But if he moves the knight, you take the rook. But what I mean, that after rook e7, this is the move that actually Magnus Carlsen played. Now, if the bishop is on c6 after next black's move, knight e5, the bishop on c6 would be under attack. So that's why on a4 is a little bit better. f4, wow, f4, be careful. I know Facundo usually solves the problems, but not here, because you just blundered the guy here on e3. So, no f4 in this position. Ashish. f4, what else? Knight g3. I see some knight g3 ideas. Yeah, you will love to play f4, of course. You will love to play f4, then therefore this knight is, I mean, it's not so good, but it's actually not possible. Knight to g3. I think this is the best move in this position. This is what Duda played finally, because you're not only aiming to jump to f5, but also you're attacking the pawn on h5. And this actually looks like, you know, tough for black right now. So what do you play with the black pieces right now? How do you stop knight f5 and knight to h5? You have any ideas in mind? Yeah, bishop f4, also after rook e7. Be careful with these moves, you know. Now, boom, rook takes e2 and bishop f4. 2 pieces for rook. White is much worse, so be careful with these moves. So, knight g3, how do you play? g6. Okay, g6 is the first moves that comes to my mind. But it's a possibility, but I just don't like it. You know, I just don't like it. I can maybe, I don't know, play something like bishop d2, then your f4 idea, followed by f5. Also, the bishop is coming to c3. But it's definitely a possibility. Probably the second best move in the position. But there's a better move. Knight to b6, somebody is suggesting. The knight on b6 is the, well, it's well placed because you're attacking the bishop on a4. I guess bishop c6. This was Magnus Carlsen, Duda's idea probably. And in some positions, it's actually very interesting to take this bishop on e3. I've seen this kind of ideas in the Benoni structures, right? Where the dark squares bishop is actually a fantastic piece. So this could be one of those positions where it may be interesting to sacrifice on e3. But, okay, so knight b6, another possibility. And rook e5. Rook e5, I don't know about this move. I don't know what is the rook doing on e5. Yeah, you are trying to stop knight f5, but I just don't like again. For example, bishop d2, followed by f4. You're going to end up losing another tempo. So I don't like rook e5. I think the rook doesn't belong to that square. I think e5 belongs to the knight. So Magnus Carlsen actually played knight e5. And then our question is, what happens if Duda takes on h5? He didn't take on h5. Why? Why didn't he take on h5 in this position? Basically, knight e5 is stopping knight h5. But why? What's the reason behind? Exactly, Piyush. Exactly, Piyush. Because there is bishop g4. And now black attacks the rook and the knight. So that's why he didn't take on h5, but instead he went for knight e4 in this position. And now, you know, white is just aiming to put pressure on c5, to put pressure on t6, maybe get the bishop pair. And now it's Magnus Carlsen turn. So what do you think about this move, bishop f5, which looks like pinning the knight on f4? You like it? You think it's a good move? It's a bad move? Or what? Knight, bishop f5 in this position. Or give me some candidate moves. Bishop f5, I don't know, g6, f5. What do you want to play here with the black pieces? It's a bad move because there is knight f6 in this position, forcing moves again. Takes, and then this king is under attack, basically. Well, still knight c4 is not so clear, but I think after bishop c2, something like this, there are going to be some nasty threats on h7. So that's why he didn't go for bishop f5. So what do we play then with the black pieces? I mean, this rook on e7 was not only allowing this knight to jump, but also it has a purpose itself. f5. 5 is another possibility. I guess I can just take on d6 and this bishop is locked now by his own pawn. So usually you want to bring this bishop in the future to f5, right? By playing f5, this is not going to be possible anymore. So f5 I think is not a very good move. So rook b7, that's right. This is the move that Magnus Carlsen played. Rook e to b7. And actually is threatening some stuff. For example, if I just play, let's say, f4, what do you play here with the black pieces? Give me the sequence. Give me the sequence. Yeah, you can bring out the bishop because the queen is stuck in f5. But in the future, there will be some ideas with bishop f5. You want to play f5 in these positions because the bishop is never going to have a future, you know. He's jobless. He didn't go to university, you know. Basically, he's got nothing to do. Just play bullet on lead chess the whole life, you know. Which is fun, you know, but it may not be the best, you know, idea. That's right. Rook takes b2. I think you missed the last move because of takes, king takes. Now knight d3 is not the best move, but instead knight c4 and then grabbing this guy on e3, and then basically white is losing. So definitely black is threatening to take on b2. We have to take measures against this move. So how do we react against rook takes b2? I mean, what do we play here with the white pieces? b3, it's an option, probably the only option available here for white, because after bishop b3, I mean, you don't want to play this move, right? Maybe a5, a4, bishop f5 is also now interesting. So, because now, I mean, bishop f5 is possible because there's no knight f6, because the queen is now capturing on f6. The rook on e7 didn't allow this, but now there is no rook on e7, so queen comes to f6, and actually black wins the game. So, you know, b3, best move here from Duda. And now Magnus Carlsen goes for rook b4 in this position. So, here Duda has to play very precisely. The position is so complicated that the engine says it's completely equal, 0.00. But of course, this is a real mess, yeah? In this moment, Duda didn't go for this move. But what happens? How do you think would have Magnus played if white goes for rook h to e1? So, how do we play with the black pieces? Yeah, I see some interesting moves there. Knight g4, rook takes a4, bishop f5. Basically, I like both of them. I like bishop f5, I like rook a4. Let's try to understand why. Somebody is suggesting queen b6 here, which I think is not very good because you are not on time to play slow because of f4, something like this. Let's say knight b4 and just bishop d2. And I think white is much better in this position, so you are not on time to play slowly in this position. Yeah, so knight g4, same problem. I can just take on d6, and then if you take, there is bishop d2 again, so you shouldn't allow this. So rook a4, this was actually Magnus Carlsen's idea, and now after b takes e4, just rook b4 again. Idea is just to grab this guy on c4 with fatal consequences for white in this position, right? So the king is extremely unsafe here. Let's say if knight d2, yes, you manage to protect the c4 pawn, but all your pieces are very passive. Look at this rook on d1. It's basically reading the newspapers, yeah? And now you can improve your pieces. Bishop d7, you're gonna take on a4. This queen is coming to a5 as well. You got a fantastic knight on e3 that is threatening to fork on d3 at some point. So that's why Duda didn't go for rook h to e1. Now that you have seen what's the idea in this position, how would you play with the white pieces? I think this is called reverse thinking or something like this. I don't know. So, how should we play here with the white pieces? Knight c3. Okay, this is a possibility to stop this. I don't like knight c3. You know why? Because after g6, the bishop comes to f5. This looks terrible for white, actually. This looks very terrible for white. So, yeah, that's great. Bishop d2, just covering the b4 square. Very important. Because now Magnus is actually forced to sacrifice the exchange. Otherwise, after rook b7, I mean, there's no point to play rook b4 and then after bishop d2 play rook b7. Now white can continue with f4, just winning some space, bringing a rook to the e file, and then white's king is extremely safe on the queen side, right? So there's no reason to go play rook b7. So Magnus had to go all in at this moment, and he went to take on a4, rook takes a4, b takes a4, and now bishop f5 from Magnus Carlsen. And he actually has a lot of counterplay and a lot of compensation for the sacrifice exchange. Now Duda was 1 pawn up, but now of course he's got double pawns. The king is very, very unsafe. I was pretty sure that Magnus was gonna win this game. I don't know why I felt that, you know, but I'm always wrong. So again, what do you play here with white? Give me some moves. At some point you have to reinforce your position. Yeah, we can remove the engine bar if you... I mean, we can do it like this. Boom, there's no engine bar anymore. Knight takes e6. Don't blunder the queen, my friend Aniket. Knight takes e6, bishop takes e2. Right? And rook e1. That's a move that Duda played in this position. Pawn to f3. This is another possibility. I guess what black is trying to do is maybe to bring the queen to b6. Also, bishop e4 is very, very interesting because if you take with the queen, maybe queen d7, moves like that. Queen d7, queen b7 later. So, for example, queen d7, queen c2, queen b7. You're actually threatening to take on c4. And I don't see a clear way to stop that. So actually black has a lot of ideas. In the game, yeah, f4, I don't like f4, you know. I don't like f4 at all. You have different options here for black. The thing is, I understand your point, but I think black can play queen b6. If you now take on e5, there's bishop e4 coming. Bishop e4 and there's queen b2 if you take back on e4, right? And then if you protect on e1, then how do you win the game with the black pieces? Forcing moves again. So you see that there was real danger behind Duda's position. You know what Duda means in Spanish? Like doubt or question mark, you know? Yeah, knight d3. Knight d3, only move takes, and queen b2 checkmate. So, yeah, Duda went for rook d2 e1, which is very interesting because at some point, this king could be running via d1, right? At some point, I'm not saying now, of course, king d1, it looks like a terrible move, but at some point this king could escape via d square. Alright, so in the game, actually Magnus now made a mistake according to the engines. I mean, it's so easy to make mistakes in this position. So again, what do you want to play right now? Be careful, because if you move the queen, for example, queen b6, now this move has a hidden plan. Not only to protect the e4 knight, but also another interesting idea. Let's see if you find the idea, for example, after queen b6. So actually rook e1 is a fantastic defensive move from Duda. Yeah, knight f6, be careful with this move. G takes, queen b2, king d1. You may survive and maybe not. There's some knight c4 coming. Yeah, rook e3. This is why this move is such a great move. Because you are not only protecting the knight on e4, but also you want to come to b3 and block this file. So rook d2 e1, in my opinion, is just a fantastic move. That's right, guys, rook e3, very good. So in this position, Magnus has a unique move to equalize the game. It's very tough to spot, you know. Let's see if you guys are able to see it. Like, give me some candidate moves in this position. Don't tell me h4. This is the move, sorry, that Magnus Carlsen went for, h4. So, how do you play with the black pieces? Rook b4. Yeah, maybe this is too much, you know. Bishop takes b4, and now I don't know, f4. This looks too much. Too much. Now it's a whole rook. Knight g4. Camilo Andrés Acuña Buitrago. Queen b6. Queen b6, we just explained the problem behind that, right? Because rook e3 and rook b3. Take the knight. Take the knight. I don't like this, you know, because you just gave up the bishop pair. And you got nothing in return, and then this was one of your key pieces to create troubles on white skin, sorry. So no bishop takes e4. That's right, the move was knight g4. That's a fantastic move, because actually now white is in a lot of trouble in this position. I mean, your threat is very simple. You want to play knight f2. And if you go something like, I mean, there is also another idea behind knight g4 is to free the square for the bishop. And once the bishop is on e5, rook b2, it's a real threat in this position. So it's actually tough to play for white in this position. For example, let's say rook e2, bishop e5, and black's better. So what else can you play here? And also, knight takes f2 is a real threat. For example, if you play bishop c3, then how do we play here with the black pieces? Okay, we don't have the e5 square, but now we have another important square. Now we'll check your games, your move, sorry, Sarang. We'll check f4 right now. Very interesting suggestion. So, now, what do we play with the black pieces? Knight f2. Knight f2, just queen takes f2. And now the rook is protecting e4. So knight f2 doesn't work. No. Yeah, bishop f4. That's right. The bishop stopped covering this square. And now, actually, this king has to run through d1. And I don't know about this position, but it feels like white should be doing very, very fine in this position. I don't know. You have so many ideas. Even like some knight f2 followed by queen a4 check when you capture, followed by some queen rook b2. I mean, some tactical shots arise in this position. So, not bishop c3 and f4. Actually, yeah, this is a nice idea, but I think you can play knight f2. I mean, knight f2, the threat is not only taking the pawn, but going to that square, because the knight on e4 is actually pinned. So, yeah, so after knight g4, I think the engine was suggesting something like f3. And now you're gonna move with the black pieces. How should we proceed with the black pieces in this position? Well, we have not so many options, right? Because our knight on g4 is under attack. So, yeah, bishop e4, that's the best move. Because now we are forcing... Yeah, knight f2 here, it's no point. Because now rook f1, knight takes f4, f takes f4. You want to keep the bishop probably on this diagonal. But I think after bishop f4, something like this, white has reinforced the position. There's no trouble. But bishop e4, the point is... white cannot take with a piece. So basically this file is gonna be closed, and now after pawn takes e4, some moves like queen e8, for example, attacking a4, also aiming to go to e5. We can use this square for the bishop or for the queen. Let's say a3, queen e5, because we are threatening actually queen a1, and I think the engine was not finding anything better, just going for the repetition. Bishop d2, queen e5, bishop c3, and I think black's fine in this position. But okay, So knight g4, very deep. Also, not an easy move to do. And Magnus, as you can see, Magnus also a human being, and he went for h4. And this gave white enough time to reinforce the position. Now we said that knight g4 was an interesting move for black. So what do we play here with the white pieces? f4. f4? f4? Yes. Okay, f4 attacks the knight, but then we can still go to g4. I mean, it's not a bad move. But yeah, pawn to f3, pawn to h3. Pawn to f3 allows h3, and then f3 suffers. So that's why h3 is much better than f3. We stop this h3 idea from Magnus Carlsen. g3, I don't believe in this move because there is knight f3 coming. And yeah, shouldn't allow this, you know. And then bishop e5, and then same ideas with rook b2. So h3, very good move from Duda. Now Carlsen went for knight g6. Now Magnus wants to use this square for the bishop. And what should we play now? Again, remember this defensive technique from Duda, defensive move. Rook d2 e1 was made with more than one purpose, not only protecting the knight on e4, but also aiming to protect the third rank. So that's why rook e3 was played here from Duda. Now Magnus Carlsen is struggling in this position actually. See, he went to play knight f4 in this position, attacking g2, and now this is a very simple move, g4 for Duda. Now, of course, after taking on h3 and passant, white recaptures with the pawn, and white's fine. So Magnus Carlsen went back to bishop g6, with bishop g6, sorry, and now his idea is to open the position up with the move f5. So what do we play now with the white piece? It's not an easy position. We have interesting options here. Several playable alternatives for white. But what do you think about this move? Rook b3. You like it? Yeah, knight d6. Again, be careful with your queen. Aniket. The knight is pinned, so you cannot take on d6. So rook b3, the problem is that you stopped covering the square. And knight e2 and knight d4 could be actually very, very dangerous. So rook b3 is not very good right now. That's why Duda plays king d1. A move that it's amazing because now he's covering e2. And now he's ready to go to b3 if needed. Magnus Carlsen here tries to create some mess by playing f5, trying to open the position. It makes a lot of sense actually. The engine doesn't like this move. I mean, I think the engine was suggesting something like bishop e5, and then or queen d7 too, f3. But Magnus Carlsen opens the position up with f5, and anything actually can happen in this position. Don't trust always in the engine, you know. I mean, I'm sure I get to play this position against Magnus Carlsen, and I lost 10 out of 10 games. That's right. So now f5, knight takes d6, and the thing is, black cannot play the intermediate move f takes g4 because there is rook e8 just winning the game. So that's why Magnus Carlsen went on to play queen d6 and g takes f5 from Duda. Only move for Magnus Carlsen, bishop a5, and now best move for white f3 and queen f6. So basically, black's threatening to penetrate on a1. So that's why Duda played bishop c3, stopping that move. So queen g5, and now there are some nasty discover moves with the queen on g5, right? Something like knight d5 is in the air. So that's why Duda centralized his queen by playing queen e4. And now Magnus Carlsen played queen g2. And this is an extremely important moment. What do you play here with the white pieces? I'm gonna tell you, my threat is just to take the rook, of course, but also to take the pawn on a2. And now you had to find a concrete and amazing solution that Duda found, and this way he just won the game. It's a fantastic tactical sequence. Yeah, Pushka, you were actually talking about an Iket's variation, but it was also the answer to this. So I thought like you were, anticipating the future. You know, I couldn't understand what was happening in the chat actually. Double rook on e1, and then after queen takes a2. So basically, this move is the only one in this position. And now, the engine suggests for Magnus Carlsen f6, which nobody understands, right? We'll try to understand later. But the point is, Magnus just played queen a2 in this position. And actually, he was thinking he was winning. He thought he was winning in this position. Because it's not easy for white. Because there is rook b1 coming. And if you play queen c2, it looks like black can take on c4, right? And then there's some check on e8. I just take king h7. Looks like black's skin is fine. Queen e5, there's checkmate on b1. So you cannot go for this. I arrived first with rook b1. So just try to find the solution. I was very impressed because Duda found this solution extremely quickly in that game. So, any ideas? Queen c2, and if I take on c4, what happens? Queen c2, I just take on c4, and now what? Looks like black's winning. You gotta find something concrete. Yeah, queen c2, but then what? Queen takes c4, and it's not clear. Rook e8, takes, king h7, and then? And then what? You are almost there. You are almost there. Bishop d2, I mean, this is too sad, yeah? It's just rook b2, for example. This is just losing. Look at how the bar had a heart attack after bishop d2. That's right, guys. You saw that. Pretty amazing combination. I mean, I was very impressed when Duda played extremely fast queen c2 here in this position. Magnus thought he was winning. But the problem with queen c4 is that there is this nice tactical shot. Rook e8. Now Magnus played king h7 because he realized that if he takes on e8, then there is rook e8, king h7, and then the final blow. The final shot. Come on. Defeat Magnus Carlsen. Beat Magnus Carlsen. How do you do it? Rook h8. That's right. Rook h8. Fantastic move. King takes h8 and bishop g7. Sayonara, baby. King takes e7. Queen takes e4. And black has to resign. So that's why Magnus Carlsen already noticed that he was losing actually after this trick on h8. That's why he tried king h7. Okay. Rook b8, and then he's completely lost. He kept fighting in this position. He took on d5. Queen d2. Bishop takes f3. King c1. And queen takes f5. I mean, Duda is so much material up, yeah? It's got like 2 rooks for 1 knight. It's true that the king is a little bit shaky on c1, but, you know, this is just too much material. So let's see how the game finished. So rook e3 in this position, attacking the bishop and covering d3, which was Magnus Carlsen's threat. So let's say if you play something stupid like a5, knight d3, and probably black's winning. So you gotta be careful till the end of the game. So rook e3, knight e2 from Magnus Carlsen, king b2, knight takes e3, where there's not much going on. Queen takes e3, attacking the bishop. Queen f4 from Magnus Carlsen, attacking the rook on b8. Queen d3 check. f5. Facundo this time not enough to solve black's problems. Rook f8. Okay, this continued a little bit more, but I mean it's not really interesting because the game is completely lost for Magnus Carlsen. He took on e4, finally sacrificing an exchange, and now is only one rook up in this game. So some more checks. You can always check for a few more moves, but after king a5, took on a6. Now Magnus Carlsen tried to push the pawns, but this is just too much. And finally he resigned because he was actually taking the queen on f5. Next move. Okay, so this was the game that ended Magnus Carlsen unbeaten streak of 125 moves. 2 years without losing a single game in a classical chess tournament, facing 2,700 players all the time. And we have to say that he actually lost a second game in this same tournament against Levon Aronian. We actually analyzed that game the other day in the class, in the endgame class. So basically, Magnus Carlsen losing 2 games in one tournament, this is not a very common thing to see. Okay, guys, so it's been a fantastic pleasure to be here with all of you. I guess I'll come back to the YouTube channel in a couple of days for the next lectures, where we'll have, I think, chess for rookies, chess for knights, and Puzzle Paradise as well, where we'll be solving some interesting puzzles. So I hope you guys have a nice evening and take care. Yeah, stay healthy. That's a more important thing. Just take care, guys. See you.